Welcome back to another episode of our gardening series. We're in the Lenape garden this afternoon. That's where we're going to start. Behind me is the Three Sisters garden. We have struggled with the squirrels and the groundhogs and the deer this year, but I think we finally got it worked out. Our corn is growing. What we're going to do this afternoon is look at several of our gardens to see how things are growing and also look at some weeds. Because that is what keeps the gardener busy in the summertime, pulling all those weeds. So part of the reason we've got chicken wire on our corn, even though it's not historic, was that we have had to replant the corn 3 different times to fight the squirrels. And it seems to be working now. This is our Lenape Puim corn. It's not commercially available, so we are doing our best to protect that corn so that it'll grow up and we'll have more ears of corn coming on this fall. We're in the Connor House garden, the Loom House garden right now, and we've got lots of things blooming, things coming up. This is a garden that's really starting to take off, and even more so as we get some rain and it warms up again. A little cool today, but that's been appreciated. The bee balm is lovely. It always reminds me of fireworks. And it smells good. Another name for it is Oswego tea. But this is a place to come if you're at Connor Prairie and you want to see hummingbirds, because the hummingbirds love it as well. We have cannas, the one along the fence that has the big leaves, and they will get taller. They've also got red flowers, and that's another one that the hummingbirds love. If you've not had a chance to visit this garden, it's a mix of dye plants. We've got some household herbs like the sage and the bee balm, the tomatoes. But we do have a lot of our dye plants and textile-related plants here. This is one of them, Golden Marguerite. It'll give us some lovely yellows and other colors depending on what mordant we put with it in the loom house when we dye. We've also got alkanet, this purple flower. The bees love it. I see a bumblebee on it right now. And it will give us some reds and things if we use the root. We don't dye with it as often, but it certainly makes our pollinators happy in this garden. This is Lady's Bedstraw. It's another one of our dye plants. It's got these little tiny flowers that you hardly even notice when you walk through the garden. But if you're here at the right time, if the weather is right, the humidity and the temperature, it smells wonderful. And it's one of those scents that you can't quite identify. People walk into the garden and start looking to figure out where it is. Part of why it's called Lady's Bedstraw is this scent that the whole plant has. It was also used sometimes for filling beds. Because it smelled nice, but it's also a dye plant. The tops will give us our typical Indiana yellows and greens that we get from a lot of plants that we can grow here in Indiana. The roots will give you red if you treat it right and have good luck as a dyer. So this is our Broad Ripple yellow tomato. It is not a true heirloom, but it does date back at least to the 1980s and probably a lot older than that. But it has a local story. A local seed collector back in the 1980s found this plant growing in a crack in the sidewalk in a local Indianapolis neighborhood, Broad Ripple. He took it home. He was a tomato collector, so he grew it out. It didn't match any of the other tomatoes that he had in his collection, in the books and everything else, all the references that he could find, so he called it the Broad Ripple Yellow. It's one that's not commercially available. Another tomato that he saved is also named after him. It's a similar tomato, but this one tastes better. So we save the seeds every year, and if you come to our heirloom plant sale in May over Mother's Day weekend, then we have this tomato plant available for sale every year. And it is a wonderful tomato. They don't get very big. They're just going to be little currant-sized tomatoes, but they are wonderfully flavored. For a gardener, anything that's growing where you don't want it is a weed. If you've got roses in your corn or corn in your roses, they're both weeds. As we said, one of the main tasks of a summer gardener is pulling weeds. And we've got one plant, this lovely chartreuse plant that I've already pulled some of. It's called Jewels of Opar. It's got kind of a fleshy leaf. In some parts of the world, they actually use it as a pot herb. They cook it as a green. We got it as an ornamental at one point, but it spreads hundreds and thousands of seeds, as you can see. So that's one that keeps us busy in the garden. The other one that I just pulled is called sorrel, or as a kid I called it sour grass. And you might eat a little bit of it as a kid. It's got a kind of a spicy, lemony taste. you just don't want to eat too much of it at one time. It's getting ready to seed, so we've got it just at the right time because all these seed pods here, we're getting ready to go ahead and mature and burst and spread seeds all over. So that's one thing you want to look for as you're weeding too, is to catch things before they have a chance to spread even more seeds. We are in the Curtis garden now. This is the Blacksmiths family. They are, according to our biographies, from upstate New York. So we tend, in all our gardens in Prairietown, to plant varieties that are appropriate to that region of the country. So as people move from one place to the other, they're going to bring the plants that they were used to, the seeds that they were used to, along with them. One of the things that's a little bit different in this garden that you don't see very many places in Prairietown are tomatoes. And we have large red tomatoes. And we actually have some coming on. You can see them down in there. Now, a large red tomato, it's about this big, but that's a big tomato for 1836. They are a good flavor, and it's another one that we have available at our plant sale. This garden has flowers and beets and onions. We've got pole beans, and we've just planted more beets. They harvested the first batch. Beets and radishes and things like that will come on fairly quickly, so you can succession plant. You can plant every couple of weeks, or you can wait until that first crop comes out and work that ground and put more seeds down. But we just put more beets back here. There's a couple left from the first planting. These were left to get a little bit bigger. Now they're going to have company to grow with them. And with the rain that we've got coming, that's going to get all that seed to sprout, and we will see rows of beets here shortly. Next time we get together, we are going to talk more about our flowers and herbs, but I want to show you the feverfew because it's blooming so nicely now. Mrs. Curtis is one of those women that's going to do a lot of the nursing of her own family, and feverfew helps bring down fevers. It's in the chrysanthemum family. It's got these lovely flowers. It looks a little bit like chamomile, but if you look at the leaves, you'll see it's a different plant. And she would gather those flowers and leaves and dry those for the winter so that she could make them into a tea to help bring down her children's fevers later on. We're in the Gregory Garden. If you don't know the names of all the gardens real well at Conner Prairie, this is the one with the raised beds. We did that so it'll be handicapped accessible and easier for us to get in and out of as well. We've got some weeds here, and one of the things about a lot of our weeds is they were originally used as food plants. So while the lamb's quarter here, or goosefoot, and you can see the goosefoot shape of it, is a native plant. It was used by the Native Americans. It was used by early settlers. People still eat it today as a food plant, but we probably don't want it growing in our garden. Another one that is native, that we have so much of in the spring, is chickweed. And if you've got chickens, pull it out of your garden, give it to them, they're gonna love that. But it's one that we pull out by the bushelful when we weed our gardens in the spring. Some of these weeds were planted intentionally. Now we look at them as weeds. Originally they were food plants, herbs, and had a useful purpose. They still do. We just need to remember that as we pull things out, that we can make a use of them. You may remember the nasturtiums that we planted in the last episode. We're just checking in on them. They have grown quite a bit. They're liking this bed. We've got a few little blossoms over here that are just starting. The whole plant of the nasturtium is edible, from the leaves to the flowers to the seed pods later on. So this is one we'll keep checking back. We'll come back and check on it next month and see if it's got more flowers on it. We have looked at several of our gardens today. We've looked at some weeds. I often tell some of our new staff who are not used to working in gardens, just start with one weed. If you can identify one weed and pull that, that's a start. And then we'll work on the second weed and the third weed as you learn more about your garden and more about the things that you don't want in your garden. Next time, we're going to look at more of our flowers and herbs. We'll check in on the gardens again to see how they're doing, see how tall the corn is, but we'll focus on the flowers and herbs. So join us again and come out and see the gardens in person.